breaking it down in layman's terms today. I've got a special guest. I got a real, true sales leader. He has a great sales training company. He's an author of a new book coming out. He's got an award-winning podcast with like 3.7 million downloads in the works. The dude is all about business, all about sales. Dare I say, he's an evangelist for sales. Please welcome the sales evangelist, Don Old Kelly. What it do, Donald?
I love it. I love it, man. Doug, I need to have you do all my intros, man. That was like that was amazing.
Well, you're amazing. Sales evangelist is amazing. What you've been doing, you've been putting in the work. So I appreciate the compliment, but definitely we've got a lot to cover today. You've got a new book coming out, Sell It Like a Mango. We're going to touch on your podcast, talk about my favorite topic, video, when it comes to sales, maybe messaging, and of course, training. But I want to fall back. I've read your latest book, which is coming out in May, correct? You're going to launch it in May. Sell It Like a Mango. I've been very fortunate out there for a visual element here. I actually have gotten a book, and I've read the book cover to cover, so you'll see a video review. But Donald was very kind to send me a copy of the book and gave me a thank you card and the whole bit. So I appreciate the book. The book's well worth, just to tip off, it's well worth getting, people.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what I like about the book, the title, Sell It Like a Mango, you really touch on, well, your upbringing. You were raised in Jamaica, your family, and it's a Jamaican way of work ethic, works multiple jobs. They got to do what they got to do to make money in this case. Your late great Aunt Ivy was a direct influence. Your mom, your uncle, your dad. Was that the inception for the title of the book? And I know you sell mangoes on the road, so I've set the tone for Sell It Like a Mango, if you could.
Yeah, I was Doug. I was looking at all of the. I was flirted with by some publishers who wanted me to write a book, and I gave them an idea for a manuscript. But the problem, Doug, that it sounded and looked like any other sales book. You could have taken that same manuscript and plugged like Gittimer on there, or plug whatever Jill Conrad. I mean, obviously everybody have a different writing style, but the problem was it was just really focused on selling in general. It wasn't me. It wasn't unique, because that's the difference. I mean, Jill has her own way of selling. Jeffrey, Jeb, Anthony, everybody have their own way of educating sales and perspective from their sales side. Why go and copy all these people? So I got hired a book coach, Azul Turan, and Azul was like, basically, he said it in kind of plain, nice words, but he basically said, take that and throw it away. We started over from scratch. And then he started doing brainstorming, similar to like what I have on the whiteboard here. And he had me like, brainstorm out, like, talk to us about your first thing that you ever sold, Donald. And we started talking about that. And I was like, man, well, I remember being as a kid, I wanted to get this Ninja on a bike, like literally like a Ninja bike for Christmas. Or was it some kind of holiday? I think it was pretty sure it was around Christmas time, and I couldn't afford it at the time. And then I remember my cousins in the past had me climb to the mango tree and pick mangoes. And I was like, maybe I can start selling stuff. I can sell mangoes, or I can get cookies and put them in baggies and sell that. And I started doing that in the holiday season. And so he was like, let's go back to this mango thing. And I told him about how I tried to do it and how I failed horribly at trying to sell mangoes. And then we started having a discussion. We're like, think about this. There's so many people who are selling the same exact product in Jamaica. People are selling mangoes, for instance. The mangoes that I was selling compared to the mangoes that the people were selling from the streets of Jamaica, those people weren't like getting imported mangoes from like Asia, probably were. Some could be, but most of the mangoes more than likely were coming from the same region, from the same country, from Jamaica. What made one person more successful at selling their mangoes versus me? And as we started analyzing this, and we're like, Donald, he was like, this is where your sales belief and ideas can come from. Let's extrapolate that. And then when he's played with the title, and I think it was just in a conversation nonchalantly, it's like sell it like a mango. And I was like, holy moly, that works. That sticks. No pun intended. So when we started playing with that, sell it like a mango, and we came up with the subtitle, because a lot of our training, we help BDRs and new sellers. So obviously we work with all kinds of folks, but those people typically gravitate towards our content initially. So we said, sell it like a mango, new seller's guide to closing more deals. And it just stuck. So it's all about the principles that we learned from what what street cart vendors are doing in Jamaica, applying to what B2B sellers are doing right now. The principle is still the same, whether you're selling software, whether you're selling, complex, manufacturing equipment, or whether you're selling services. no matter what it is, there are going to be competitors. People are going to sell the same thing that you do. How do you sell it effectively and stand out? And it's this principle to sell it like a mango. And
And sell differently and stand out, because a mango could be such a commodity. And
of course,
and it was so genius on the planet, in the book, Coach, right on point with the title. But not to sell it short, but you talk about growing up in Jamaica, your work ethic, but you had a desire to succeed because you had no options. And
mm,
you got to get the book, people, because Don really documents, it's humble beginnings and everything else. And you talk constantly in your trainings as well as in the book. One, I got to have that desire to sell, but I got to have the proper training. You even alluded to, when we're all in sales, myself, you, we all made a lot of freaking mistakes. So having the right processes and training, and that goes outlined in the book, but you learn from the best of the best. I
yeah.
want to move a little bit further in your career, and we can touch on, being a dynamic keynote speaker and Toastmasters. But at this point, your missionary work, and I think about that. I think about, desire, hustle, grit, but I think about the P word of planning.
Mm.
You alluded to in the book that by doing your work, by documenting everything you did, help you become a sales professional. Let's fall back, and you did some great work at BYU, a graduate, but let's talk a little bit about the missionary work, how that involved you in selling.
Yeah, and from those who are familiar with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, at 19, we go on a mission if you desire, and the mission lasts for 2 years. So when I was 19, I left and I served a mission in Detroit. So I did service opportunities. We did ecclesiastical work, of course, and just helped out in the community in Detroit for 2 years. One of the things that you learn is you're coming out of high school, pretty much. I was out of high school for about a year, and at this point, you're learning understanding about life. And one of the things that we learned was planning. Like, you need to plan your day. How can you ensure that your day is going to be effective? Prior to that, in high school, I was a checklist guy. I would say, like, what do I need to get done today? Need to go to the store, need to get this stuff, need to hang out with friends, going to the movies. 5 things on my checklist. Check, check, check. But then I got to this idea of planning like every hour of the day. And I was like, come on, that's too crazy. You guys are nuts. You want me to plan out every single hour of the day to have a meaningful activity? And I thought it was impossible, Doug. But then I did it. And after you do it for like a month, you realize how effective it was. Like, we were optimal in our activities. We were doing the things that were most effective for our role. And we even had backup plans. And we did a weekly planning session. So now for the next week on Thursdays, I knew exactly what we were going to do over the course of the next week. And then each night we reviewed that plan to ensure that we have the maximum schedule prep for our next day. And I was thinking, if this is important, if it's so important to tie, for missionary work or for doing God's work, this should be probably important for me as a student.
Absolutely.
For me in business. So I took those same principles and I started applying it. I started doing planning sessions. I started doing nightly planning. I started using, just like, making sure I had meaningful activities every single day. And that's one of the things that's helped me tremendously. Now, when we look at other sellers who are out there, a lot of people are just winging it. They get up in the morning, they go, and it's like, what am I going to do today? I'm going to make calls. Like, you are not in control of your schedule. Your schedule is in control of you at that point. When we are planning every single detail of our schedule, I mean, obviously you need to have flexibility, of course, but when you have a meaningful activity plan in your day, you're focusing on things that matter the most. Because I can tell you, a lot of salespeople are doing things that are non-sales related activity. They're doing more work than an administrative assistant because they're adverse to doing the sales activity. And they feel that if they're doing a lot of these CRM updates, that means they're doing sales work. But that's not the maximum effort. Imagine like a basketball player, when it's game time, spending time lacing up their shoes. Like, yes, though you need shoes to play basketball, that is important. Do you need to spend the whole time lacing up your shoes? No, it sounds stupid. So why in the world do we find salespeople engage in non-sales related activity? I love social media just like anybody else, but I need to make sure that when I'm on social media, I'm actually doing social media things that's going to help to drive business. When I'm doing prospecting, I need to make sure I'm focused on making the phone calls or sending emails. And when I'm updating my CRM during that time, which is an important task as well, I'm not going to make sure, but I'm not going to have that take over my whole day. I'm going to do that at a down peak time that it's not going to influence or interrupt my day. So then now I own my schedule and I'm not being pulled and pushed around by random things. And that's the power of planning. And everyone, no matter who you are, no matter what background you come from, planning is absolutely essential. It's universal. It is, it's universal, not just like, something that, that one certain country needs. Every culture needs to be effective at planning, and no matter what your role is. So that's how it's impacted me from my missionary journey.
Failing to plan is planning to fail,
Come
but
on, man.
having that process in place, because I go back to having the desire, having the training, but school of hard knocks, you took what you did when you were in Detroit, going on doors and going on a mission. You transferred those skills. You transferred the skills of selling a commodity. And then we move forward in your career. Obviously, you've had a distinctful list of sales jobs. And let's talk a little bit about the public speaking a little bit more, because obviously you if you go to Donald's website and his team, Sales Evangelist, we'll have the links to that. Donald, you're a dynamic speaker, and it's obviously well documented, but your upbringing in selling mangoes, whether the missionary work, all define who you are. But let's talk a little bit about speaking in Toastmasters. How did that award-winning career start for you, or how did you get launched in that?
So I was in a company meeting, and one of my friends said, same friend who influenced me to start a podcast, Jared Easley, he said, you should think about doing Toastmasters. Jared was the second person within a couple of months who had mentioned that. Prior to that, individual who became an influential part of my life, and also a coach, my speaking coach, and she's also one of our facilitators right now, Linda Yates, also mentioned Toastmasters. And I was like, this Toastmaster thing, like, what is it all about? So I went to a meeting. So Linda mentioned it, and somebody I really trust and look up to, and Jared, somebody I really trust and look up to. So two people I trust and look up to mentioned it. So therefore I decided to investigate it. I went and I fell in love with it, because in high school I did speech and debate, and we did a lot of speaking. Essentially, it was like acting without the props. So I love being in front of the audience. I love being in front of the group. I love presenting. I love that limelight. So I said, let me try Toastmasters. And Toastmasters refines you. It helps you to be able to be more fluid. It helps you to get rid of your ums. I still say ums. It's just that it gives you an opportunity to be more polished in your speaking and to practice every single week. So I did that for a while and did some of the and I found out that competition. I was like, say what? This is like really going back to the debate day. So I started doing some of the competition.
But you're winning. I don't want to get to that. You were the Mac at it. You were quite successful at it.
I did pretty well locally in South Florida, and won multiple district competition. And I went to region one year. The semifinals. So I finished out around the top 30 speakers in the world from Toastmasters. And that was pretty great at that point. It was a successful run. And all of that helped me with my speaking capabilities, and helped me with my writing of speeches, and how to make sure I'm edutaining, where I'm educating, but I'm entertaining in the process. And all 100%. Of that led into my podcast. And you can see influences of that in the shows when we do like little skits sometimes, or joking at the beginning of the shows. Those things all tie back to those notions. So I took all of the Toastmaster experience and used it in my professional experience, and now I get the opportunity to speak to groups all over the world, and to teams, and do keynotes in different parts of the country. And it's fascinating how that began with early debates experience, and then to Toastmasters.
I love it. I love it, because each thing you've done growing up, obviously with your Jamaican heritage, selling mangoes and hustling, I'm so inspired by it. That really inspired me when I read the book. It made me think, oh, get off your butt, Doug, and start doing planning, desire. Your missionary work helped you become a better planner for sales. Toastmasters, being a better presenter. You alluded to the word podcast, and we're going to get into that. But right now, I've got to take a short pause. I've got to bring out our virtual assistant, Vonda. Vonda's got about 15 seconds of, somewhat of a forced advertisement here. We'll bring out Vonda, and then we'll get back. We'll talk about podcasting, and we're also going to touch on some of the training programs over at the Sales Evangelist. Here's Vonda.
Thanks, Doug. We are living in a virtual business world. Virtual selling and video marketing are on the rise. Communicating socially online is fine, but there might be an opportunity to collaborate further. By building on your social proof visually. In layman's terms, creating visual story selling content. Thanks again for connecting and social watching.
Vonda, thanks for dropping in. I know we'll hear back from you later. She's got to get her airtime, Donald. That's all that is to it.
Vonda doesn't play, man.
Vonda doesn't play. She is the virtual Vonda out there.
And you know what I like about Vonda? She's succinct. I wish more of us were succinct as that. She knows what she's going to say and say it, and it's
she got clarity. She gets her points across. Voice inflections could be a little bit more with that. We're working on it, but she gets to the point, and as a speaker, you can pick up on that. Speaking of speaking, I want to pivot to the podcast in a second, but over at the Sales Evangelist website, you got a dynamic team under you, but you do one-on-one coaching, you do workshops, you do training, you do keynotes. Walk me through a little bit. I know there's one spot that I really was intrigued about was your sales education philosophy and the actual action items. Could you just touch on that a little bit? Because I find that fascinating because there's one key component that I really like on that.
Yeah, I think there's several things that we've done, and we just literally 2 days ago updated our website, so it's evolved a little bit, and that kind of goes with the company's growth. Right now, we're focused a lot on our training and cohorts. So we have one of our top cohort program is the Sales Foundation. So Sales Foundation teaches individuals the fundamentals of selling. If you're a full cycle seller, breaks down all of the different areas of that. And then also we have our sales mindset program. We're big believers in sales mindset, and we've been fortunate to partner with the Pacific Institute and to deliver a program that's all around helping sellers to really understand how are they performing at peak mindset level. Like we can all have skill set, know how to write a cold email or handle a phone objection or to even open a phone call and do a phone call with a prospect. But do we know how to continue when we face difficulties? Do we know how to make sure we're optimizing our top performance? And that's where the mindset component comes in. And it's been really amazing with that program. We also have one on time management. That's a new one that's launches in July. We have another one on video, as you've alluded to. So we love videos as well, like using videos in outreach and also social outreach on prospecting. And then we also have another program that's really new in the works. Is on enterprise business development. And we've done that a cohort, and it was really good and well received. And we have one that's coming out later in the year in Q4, I believe, beginning of Q4 in October. And it's all around image and style, which kind of falls into line with the new way that we're seeing. Like so much of our performance as sales professional is now done virtually. Do we have a personal image and a personal personal development for that, and making sure we're caring for ourselves and self-care. So it's a lot of really neat stuff, and that's coming out later. So all of our programs are all around helping sales professionals to develop, and they're built on cohort basis. And then usually people, after they go through one of our cohort, might go into one of our sales masterminds or group coaching to continue their education. And then obviously companies hire me to do keynotes and workshops. And we have a couple of facilitators with our team as well. And they also do some coaching with us, with the clients that we have. And that's a little bit of the emphasis of a lot of our offerings at the Sales Evangelist. And we do, and usually falls in my area, where I'll do consulting, where companies who don't have a sales process, they'll go through maybe a 6-month program with us, where we're able to go in and help to analyze what they're doing, develop a program, and get it up and running so that they can have the right playbooks and to be able to have the right business development capabilities. So those are pretty neat. And then tying back to my sales philosophy, Doug, I started off in the sales game with a B2C focus, business to consumer. I went into the B2B game and got my, as Anthony Iannarino probably would say that, they ate my lunch, was losing opportunity. And then I realized that I needed training. Unfortunately, I went through some training. The early training I went through was some Sandler training, and it was pivotal to my growth. I started to apply that stuff, and it was like a hockey stick in my sales performance. And since then, I've added on other training and other content and education. But the point is, when I went through that first set of training, Doug, what happened was my sales was like blah, and it was hockey stick. Like literally within like 3 months, I was closing deals. And what I realized was that it wasn't something that was unique to Donald. It wasn't something that was unique to, my company. Other salespeople, similar idea. And what all of them had in common was that they all had a desire to succeed, because we saw people in my same company who went through trainings as well, but they didn't quite succeed. And the reason was they didn't believe in the content. They didn't believe or have a purpose. They were just winging it or just doing what they needed to do to get by, to get the paycheck. I had a deeper purpose, Doug. We were homeless at one point, and I didn't want that to happen to my family ever again. We were broke. I was borrowing money from my mom, eating Wendy's the Wendy's wrap. I couldn't afford a chicken sandwich, just the dollar wrap on the dollar menu at Wendy's. And here I am, a college graduate. And I was like, this doesn't make sense as a sales professional. I need to make money. Went through the training and hockey stick in performance. And I knew that if somebody has a desire and they got the right training, stupid simple formula, they could succeed in sales. Because if you have the desire, it's going to prompt you to do the things. You're going to do the proper, outreach. You're going to be disciplined to do your planning. You're going to do the work necessary. If you have the knowledge and the skills and the training, you know what to do, and you're just going to implement that because of your discipline already, and you're going to thrive and succeed. That's pretty much it. And I would say anybody could come and argue with me on that, but that's the simple formula. And we believe that, and we follow that, and we teach that. I'm working with a team right now, and I was brought into a company. Several of the people on the team have no desire to be there, absolutely no desire. I got a chance we adjusted the program because the sales leader, I had talking to him, and I was like, this is not working. I feel like it's a waste of your time and waste of my time, essentially, because several of the folks are bringing down the whole group. So we're adjusting the program. And the reason is these people have no desire to sell. So they're looking at different changes that they can make internally in the organization. The point here is because they don't have a desire, I can't fix that. You come with a desire, I could give you the rest. And that's where the education comes. No one can force you to do something that you don't have a desire to do. So the desire needs to be there, and then we can add on it. The companies and the teams that we have worked with that did have that desire and that did have the eagerness to succeed. They were just like young DK. Like they went through training and then they saw hockey stick. And it just shows that I'm not unique. It's just a simple math. You can do that and anyone can succeed. So that's how we train. We're built all on fundamental principles, and we encourage fundamental principles. We're like Vince Lombardi. We tell them, gentlemen, ladies, this is a football, and teach them the basics of it. And we believe and will live and follow that to the day we die, because it works.
Well, put me in, coach, because I get it. I totally get that, what you're saying with that, because you outline that process in the book. The word is process planning, but you got to have that desire. And one of the things about on your website with all your training programs and everything, you mentioned the fact that one thing that really intrigued me is one of the action items was required videos. You're required to do video. And I'll put that visual up on this interview here, but yeah, video is a strong component. I know that you kind of go hard in the paint. I obviously love the passion for video. With the world being changed over the last couple of years, are you implementing a lot more hybrid virtual training programs?
Yeah, I mean, prior to the pandemic, most of our stuff was delivered through training. I mean, one of the first coaching programs I did was with an individual from Far East. He was in Japan and traveling to Australia, and doing a little world tour. And it was fascinating that I was able to connect and help and do that with someone. And then since then, we've done stuff with teams from Moldova to Poland to work with individuals in South America. And teams in South America to United States, Canada. So we've worked, we've globetrot. And then when the pandemic came, it just kind of made sense that we were already nimble and capable of doing that. So we just continued it. If anything, it refined our virtual process so that our hybrid process, so we can do more of that. And obviously we do things with teams where they'll bring me in and I'll physically go there. We're big on habits, Doug. So with our programs, the cohorts, like anyone can do like a day-long program, and you'll probably leave with really 20% of the stuff that you will remember. We feel that if that's the case, we're going to do habitual stuff. So our programs are broken up over weeks. So whether it's a 4-week or 6-week program, you have individuals watch the modules, their training on demand on their own. And then they come together at the end of the week for or a set time during the week for a group facilitator-led training, where me or one of our trainers would lead a session based on the content that they watch. So then now we're applying and we're implementing. So you learned how to write a cold email, you create a cold email, you come to the training, we dissect and give you training on how you can refine your cold email. You watch a video on doing cold outreach, you practice that, and then you come to the training and we do role plays and implement strategies and then give you improvement and educate you on how you can refine your cold outreach. So then this way, it's the accountability. You have content to watch on your own because of the independence and how many things are on demand. And that idea of now you're dissecting and you're building on content little by little throughout the week. So by the end of 6 weeks, you have built the habit for that. And we would change those habits. And that's been something that's been able to help our team. And we're big on this notion of help, because we see that the stats, like 50% of salespeople are making quota, monthly. If you look at the data or hitting their targets, we want to change that. We believe that it's possible when you do apply the simple foundational principle that we teach. So then now with our programs, we're focused on building habits. It makes sense, and we're seeing companies getting better ROI, and their individuals are retaining more information and building habits, which is helping them to succeed. So we're happy with it.
Yeah, and you outline the process and everything you're doing with the training, and obviously the key component of virtual and video. Speaking of habits, you've got a habit of doing a podcast.
Yeah.
You've been doing a podcast since a long time, since back in, I believe, I want to say 2013, way back, way deep, 1,500 plus episodes and counting. I don't want to shortchange it. 3.7 million downloads. Is that the number I'm hearing that I just saw you post on social? Yes. So the podcast, the Sales Evangelist. Walk me through how that started briefly, because I know somebody in your books, a friend recommended it. I don't know who that friend is. If you want to disclose that, that's fine. Yep. But not only does Donald have a podcast, which I encourage you, if you don't know, now you know, definitely subscribe to the podcast. We'll put up information. But Donald went hard out the gate. His first guest was Jeffrey Gitomer. I mean, he didn't play around, and then he gives tips, he interviews guests. But let's play homage to the podcast right now. Let's speak on that for a second.
Thanks, Doug. So going back to this idea, I wasn't going to start the podcast actually. And this goes back to many of us, we have fear or trepidation. I did a search. Well, back up a little bit. My buddy and I were working on the same friend, Jared Easley. So he's a co-founder of Podcast Movement, the world's largest podcasting event right now. And Jared came to an event called New Media Expo, and we didn't have the money to develop the project that we were trying to do, some of these software ideas. So it just, Jared was like, well, what if you think about, Donald, I'm thinking about this podcasting thing. You should think about it as well. I'm going to go full focus on that. So I was like, all right, man, it stung a little bit. I was like, dang, we're not going to work on this software idea. But again, we didn't have the development skills. We didn't have the funding. So he went, started, and he's like, come on my show, do a segment. So I did a couple segments giving sales tips. And then he was like, Donald, you should do your own show, man. So I started thinking about that a little bit more. And this was probably early 2012. But I just didn't have the guts, Doug. I was afraid. So I did a couple videos earlier in that year. Those videos were.
Let me stop you there. 1 second. I'm going to let you. You said you did a couple of videos, and I'm going to get into the video component of the podcast. But it's really backwards. People are intimidated by doing video, but you went into podcast. But I'll let you continue. That was called a pattern interrupt. I was a little rude to Donald there.
No,
when he said he was a little scared of the podcast, which I find hard to believe, but I'm going to hold him on that. But he was doing videos, which I find fascinating. But continue.
So here's the videos. I knew how to do basic video. Like you can record something and you can use, simple edits, and you can edit it. It takes a lot more work. I didn't understand the technicality behind the podcast, where you had to get like the RSS feed and to get that stuff set up at that point, and get a video and an image, and then to edit the audio. I was just like, that sounds really complicated. Let me just do a
100%, because I'm in that process of learning that myself. So I can understand.
It's way easier these days, right? So I just was like, I did a video, and it was on my website, my original site. I think we can find it somewhere out there. It's on the web, and I think I have it on one of my domains. But it was really humbling. And then from there, I went and we're thinking about a title, and then Jared was like, you're like an evangelist for sales. And then I was like, well, I did use the evangelist title in one of my previous roles, where I was the technology evangelist. And then he was like, we were talking about that further. And so we just married it to technology evangelist and sales evangelist, and voila.
There it is.
It came to be, and then that was the name of the podcast. The name of the what I started doing on the website. The podcast came in December, so I finally got the guts to kind of develop the stuff, and I got through some training. Jared showed me some video training that he had from one of the programs that he went through, and I watched those videos, and I watched some free videos by Pat Flynn, and I said, what the heck with it? Let's do it and develop the content. And Jared had interviewed for his podcast. He and one of his friends got connected with Jeffrey Gitomer, and he's like, you're in sales. This guy is a sales guy. What if you did a co-interview with me with Jeffrey Gitomer? So I did that. So right out of the gate, we were able to launch with that Jeffrey Gitomer episode as number one, and people were able to find that on Twitter and so forth. And it just came back to connect with us, and we got eventually mentioned in magazines. And the podcast just started to grow little by little by little by little, and just kept at it. So that's how it began. And it's been a great opportunity, in a lot of ways selfish too, Doug, And I hope people don't take that the wrong way. But when I was doing a podcast and interviewing folks like Gittimer, I was like, instead of spending $2,000 on a coaching session, I could sit here with Gittimer and do a coaching session by asking questions and getting help. And it so happened that my audience could benefit from that too. So that led to us really focusing on the podcast. And in 2016 or 15, we got introduced to someone who was able to, Prezi, they were interested in sponsoring a podcast, and they did. And then we got more sponsors as time went on. And, but yeah, 1,540 episodes later.
And counting. And you can definitely see from episode 0, which is the highlight of the show, the progressions you've made. And as an interviewer, we get stronger with repetition. One thing I also definitely like, and we'll share a visual of that as well, is from the podcast, your YouTube channel highlights short video clips of the podcast. So you're leveraging that video component for podcasting. I think, they're not in silos. They can fall back on each other. And I think you do a really good job with your short video clips as well.
Yeah, we started pushing, we were posting the whole thing, Doug. And then I realized that we needed to really focus on the platform. What do people go to YouTube, what do they want? They didn't necessarily want to hear the full episode of how to build engagement with their sales team. If that was an episode, they maybe want to learn, how do I build engagement with my sales team? And they're probably some key highlights. So our team started to break that down. So then now when you go to YouTube, you're watching about a 7 to 10 minute video while you listen to if you listen to the podcast and you want to hear the full thing, that's about a 25 to 30 minute episode, a 20 to 30 minute episode. So then therefore we respect the platform. Podcast listeners like that longer form content. YouTubers, from our experience, wanted to get get their questions answered and get the shorter content. And then obviously social media is a micro of that, where we share probably like 1 to 2 minute clips of those contents and quotes that lead people to those different journey all the way to listening to a full episode. So yeah,
I love the strategy, because you're repurposing the video component of the podcast, but you're leveraging different channels. You may have an Instagram video, a Facebook video, or a short clip on YouTube or LinkedIn highlighting the podcast, but it might be targeted to that audience. And if they get hooked on that 1 minute segment with that interview with Joe Blow, I want to listen back to the whole episode now. And next thing you know, they're like me, go down a rabbit hole, start with episode 0 and the latest. And I got a lot of listening to do, but the videos kind of give me a short snippet. And speaking of video, I've got to bring out our virtual co-host, Virtual Vonda. She's going to come back, and I think she might have a question for you. But let's stay tight. V, you're up.
Thanks, Doug. Vonda V is here. Are there any special projects that you're working on? Give us some breaking news or updates that you can share with us. And now, back to you, Doug. Vonda V is out.
You heard from the lady. Anything breaking right now that you can share with us?
Yeah, I mean, you got a couple of them right now. The book is launching, so that's one big thing. Our website just got redone, and the website is really focused now on giving out more content than ever. So you can, whether it's podcasts that you want, or whether it's like, you're looking for books, or you're looking for tips or strategies, we have it there. Free content, free courses, or a free sales training course. You can go ahead and dissect that and get that. So that's really a big push there. And then also one of the other things that we're really breaking right now with this is some of the speaking opportunities that we have. So fortunately, we have opportunity to participate at Outbound this year and get a chance to speak there. So that's really exciting. And we are also hosting our own one-day event in June. So June 24th, we're hosting a one-day event in South Florida, and it's called BizDev 2022, and it's all around business development. How can we improve our business development skills and so forth? And it's exciting. So it'll be cool.
Well, that's awesome, because I met you socially online, and a few minutes ago, you were talking about social networking and everything else that you do. You do a great job of training and positioning and evangelizing on social as well. But we actually met face-to-face last year at the Outbound Sales Conference. One of the things that I've been very fortunate to be doing interviews and work since it started here in Atlanta. And I look forward to getting a chance to interview you again. And I'll put that video link up there, because we did an interview where you spoke on direct mail campaigns and outreach and concepts at that time. and I enjoyed that interview. And we got to finally meet face to face, and that's the one thing that I'm excited. Hopefully, I plan to see you again.
Yes.
We're working out the logistics on that as well. But I appreciate the updates. Anything else? Any parting shots before we wrap this up that you would like to add? I know Vonda had her take. Now, in layman's terms, anything else?
I feel like the sales profession is, and one more thing I neglected to talk about. We partnered with a company called Stukent, and we launched a a textbook, a digital textbook. That textbook is now used in universities across the country, and sales individuals or students are able to take those concepts and apply it. And it's really, really exciting and humbling to be able to see that. But that's one thing, and we just signed with them for a second book. So we had the sales profession, like this is a fundamental sales professional book, and then now we have advanced selling. So it's really, really neat to see that and see it in action and to utilize it. I have an adjunct 1 class for my alma mater as they're developing their sales program, and it's really exciting. And students were able to use the book that my co-author.
That's at Brigham Young, correct?
Brigham Young,
yeah,
the Idaho campus, and it's really cool. So I do it virtually and teach that class with students some students are doing remote because they still have a hybrid model for their training, their education. It's really, 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 really fun to have that and to be able to do it. And yeah, it's just really cool to see that and to see it come to life and come to fruition. And yeah, that's really neat. But at the point though, everything I do, Doug, I'm really excited for sales. Sales is, can you get excited for other things and do other things? Of course. And there are other things that people are passionate about. I believe selling is a noble and one of the most important careers in the business world. If I can be able to help someone to succeed, to be able to learn and to go through and avoid the mistakes that I made, so that it can be even more success's and to get to the level where I am and some of the other salespeople out there that I get a chance to work with, I'm excited for that. There's an opportunity to standardize this thing. Sales has been seen as the redheaded stepchild in so many ways, and right now it's an opportunity for us to be able to make it and to develop it as the most important career when it comes towards business. And because nothing happens until somebody sells something, and we're grateful to be able to help people who are confused, who don't know how to quite get that process down or to sell effectively, to make that happen. So I want to thank you for being here, you and Vonda, for the content that you all produce and for creating opportunities so folks like me can be able to learn and grow. So thank you very much.
Well, we thank you as well. And, what Donald alluded to, he is the Sales Evangelist. Check out his website. Definitely check out the podcast. Look for him to speak at a conference sometime soon. Just a wealth of information. He gives a lot because he talks about the desire. He's walked in those shoes. He's sharing his own best practices, but he continues to evolve and learn as we do in our great profession of selling today. And, podcasts, books, get the book, get it in May, do a video book review out there, read the book. Reading's fundamental, people. But more importantly, check out the Sales Evangelist. Donald Kelly, thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate you.